Hey, it's Brett, and this is Brett and Some Books. Today we're continuing the plot to seize the White House by Jules Archer. This is chapter 14 of part 2. China was being torn by civil war between Chiang Kai-shek, commander-in-chief of the new nationalist armies of the South, and northern warlords led by Ch Tso-lin. Chiang Kai-shek had organized anti-British boycott and had threatened to clear China of all foreign imperialists. Warlord Ch Tso-lin, supported by the colonial powers, had declared himself dictator of North China. As Chiang Kai-shek's forces fought their way north and battles broke out between his army and Ch Tso-lin's, panic swept foreign residents in the north. American missionaries and businessmen appealed to Washington for protection. The 46-year-old decorated hero of the Boxer Campaign, who helped relieve the sieges of Tientsin and Peking, was made commander of a new Marine Expeditionary Force, the 3rd Marine Brigade. His orders were to protect the lives and property of our nationals in Tientsin, to offer temporary refuge in Tientsin for our nationals, evacuation from the interior, and to make safe evacuation to the sea. The War Department warned Butler to be extremely prudent in anything he did or said. The smallest error of judgment on his part might have disastrous consequences in the highly volatile situation. Not without good reason, Lejeune added some prudent parting advice. Be careful to avoid talking to newspaper correspondents. He arrived in Shanghai on March 25, 1927, to find tensions running high. Chinese troops had attacked several consulates at Nanking, killing many foreigners, looting and burning the city. American businessmen and missionaries had escaped on gunboats to Shanghai, whose port was now swarming with ships. Never before in history had the war vessels of so many different nations anchored together in one harbor. Barbed wire entanglements had been erected, and the international settlement was under martial law. All legations had ordered their nationals from the interior of China, from which there were daily reports of murders and outrages. A more violent version of the Boxer Rebellion seemed in the making, and the white settlements were gravely apprehensive. Butler's 3rd Marine Brigade disembarked at the Standard Oil dock in the Huangpu River alongside Shanghai, or opposite Shanghai, and set up tents in the Standard Oil compound. Shortly afterward, Butler was taken aboard the flagship of Admiral C.S. Williams, who greeted him frostily. What do you think of the situation, and what do you think of our participation? We don't have half enough men to perform our task here, Butler replied. We need more men to do it properly. The Admiral snorted. So you're one of those fellows who wants to build a big job for himself and get promoted. Butler saw red. I intend to retire in a year, he snapped, and I don't care whether I'm promoted or not. You asked for my opinion and I gave it to you. Now if you don't care to take my advice and some Americans are murdered in this town, and you sit quietly here with half of the Marines available in the United States doing nothing but guarding coal piles, you will be held responsible. The Admiral glared at him, but not without an aspect of respect. He was soon one of Butler's chief admirers. Careful to keep the American forces from getting involved in the fighting between the rival Chinese armies, Butler sought to maintain cordial relations with the Chinese people themselves. He had no stomach for any more Haiti-style interventions that would jockey him into the position of defending American business interests against native rebels, and he did not intend to risk a single Marine's life to get the job done he had been sent to China to do, unless it became absolutely necessary. Military leaders of other nations sought to organize a punitive expedition against the Kuomintang for the Nanking Uprising. To Butler's relief, Admiral Williams refused to have anything to do with the scheme, although it had the enthusiastic endorsement of the American minister at Shanghai. On May 31st, Butler wrote Lejeune, "Now for a little secret stuff. The American minister is a nervous wreck. He sits up all night and talks in circles and would have me on my grave had I had stayed much longer. He feels discredited because our government has not adopted his plan, which meant an invasion of China, followed by intervention and military government, and is desirous of going home on leave to explain his side to the president with hope of a favorable action." He later observed, "I held to the principle that the Chinese had to settle their own form of government and pick out their own soldier they can catch. I am on the side of the Red Spears, and it may be this will to be a good way to end this pathetic slaughtering of innocent people by a lot of brutal warlords." The troops of other nations in the international settlement marched around their perimeter defenses to intimidate the warlords and discourage any thought of attack. After flexing his muscles to impress them similarly at first, Butler then discreetly sought to keep in the background as much as possible, and not in any way behave like an army of occupation, more like a fire company, ready to spring to the rescue of our people, behaving simply as rescue squads.